Let's have a short sitting to come to center so that we can dive into this practice, new practice. Today, I would like to talk a little bit about the background of practice as well as context. I want you to bring this to the context of the entire map, so to speak. Buddhist teaching. Of course, many of you have been practicing, so you know what you are practicing and what practice is about and what is practice for. But it's nice to come together and talk about it. Let's have a quiet a few moments. The purpose of this short meditation is to come to this white canvas, so to speak. So in this process, we invite body awareness, bodily sensation, whatever arises, and the subtle movement of pranas. Allow everything to settle within that relatively quiet and settled state of mind. See if we can connect or welcome or invite this bubbling up, something bubbling up from the bottom up to the heart center. See if you can connect perhaps by breathing into or inviting the affectionate curiosity into your heart center. And see if you can connect to your intention, connect to heart longing, perhaps deepest longing. And make that to be today's intention, motivation, just to the best of your ability. It's so important to clarify. May not be so clear, but still you can connect to your motivation, what brings you here, why you are going to practice, why you are about to embark on this, why you click the internet login button for today, so that whatever we're going to do today will be imbued by your sublime intention. So when we talk about the bodhicitta, it's more than just love and compassion. Of course, each of us know what that feels like, love and compassion. In Buddhism, it's very specific. Love defined by our desire or wish for everybody, including yourself, to be happy. That's love. You know what that feels like, what that means. And also compassion. Compassion is defined by this strong wish, a desire for everyone, including oneself, of course, to be free from the cause of suffering and the suffering, cause of pain and the pain itself. So you know how that feels like if you have a dear one who is suffering. But this sublime motivation of bodhicitta is way more than that. Based on that foundation, without love and compassion, there's no bodhicitta. But see if we can go one step, two step, 100 steps further than merely love and compassion. That includes this messianic determination thought. Haksam, Dalai Lama translates as universal responsibility. This determination to be, I will, it's involved I still, I will make this happen. I myself, even nobody gonna help me, but I will save all beings, no matter what. So that's the one step just before bodhicitta. Then that's automatically lead to this most sublime mind of bodhicitta, awakening mind. That is, okay, in order to do that, I myself have to wake up. I have to attain or come to the state of awakening in order to benefit, in order to remove every suffering which every single sentient being is facing. So that's the definition, motivation each of us want to have, especially we are diving into the tantric practice, Vajrayana practice. This feeling should be way stronger than just non-tantric practice, which each of us do. I just want to talk about this terminology, Sutra and Tantra, as if it's a completely different things. Of course, Buddha used those terminology to present the nominal distinction, like a Sutra and Tantra. But as always I emphasize, Tantra encompasses Sutra. You can say Sutra and Tantra goes on the top, based on the Sutra. Of course, when we talk about progression that way, so just one thing I want to emphasize before we go into this is if our foundation, sutric practice or lamrim, you can say, stage of the path to awakening, many of you might be doing online, e-learning, topography of the path, and also foundation of Cho, and also book. My book is a meager attempt to really express that part for tantric practitioners. If you have that foundation, strong foundation, tantric practice is automatic. It reveals to you. For example, the transmissions you just received, or empowerment. You don't need to go and search all these great masters, or okay, which one I need to take. It will come and fall onto you. Tantra reveal itself to you if you are ready. So that's why I'm so emphasizing, not me emphasizing, that's a traditional approach. But in the West, it tends to go just kind of jump into something without context, then kind of fail, or no progress or something. Tantra works. It's supposed to work, supposed to guarantee you to have this realization in this lifetime, this body, and this single lifetime. That's what they are talking about. But then on our side, as a practitioner, we have to have a vessel. We have to create a conducive or the right ripening vessel for Tantra to reveal to you yourself. You know what I mean? Because it's a self-secret. Yeah, my point is, yeah, if you do correctly, it works. Mm. So just bear with not with me, but bear with the whole entire path. It's gonna work. So that's one thing I wanted to say. Self-revealing secret. So there are two paths. Sutra path, it's called Lamrim in our tradition terminology. Lamrim is the path to graduate path awakening, and the Gakrim is a graduate path awakening in Tantra. So Tantric Lamrim and Sutric Lamrim. Okay, many of you are familiar with Sutric Lamrim, but I just want to say a little bit about the Tantric Lamrim on the top of the Sutric Lamrim, because the Cho is a Tantric path. We need to know a little bit of a basic idea about what Tantra is about. Of course, a big subject, but I just want to pick a few things relevant to the Cho practice. So in Tantric Lamrim, Tantric stages of the path to awakening has two components. So one is the so-called generation stage or creation phase, and the second one is a completion stage or perfection stage. So those two things go together, but to start with the generation stage. Those of you who have been practicing five dakini practice belong to the generation stage, just beginning of the generation stages. Then I wanted to say a few words about what generation stage entail. And so Cho practice also not really elaborated, extended version of generation stage, but involve some visualization, rituals, offering, all belong to this first phase, generation stage, creating. Cho is not the purpose of accomplishing one identity per se, but lots of elements involved, Guru Yoga and offering, so important. In a generation phase, we do lots of offering. So there are two realizations we want to get in generation phase. One is your realization of so-called Vajra pride or divine dignity, Nagel in Tibetan. Yeah, divine pride. That counteract this ordinary perception of who we are. Usually we all have this idea, right? But then when we look at this or search it or investigate or probe, for example, me here, Kandora, where is it? Where the self? Look at the self. Each of you can do. Can you find yourself? Kind of stripping away, then there's no such a thing. All are labels. Kandora's label, me's label, made out whatever all these consist of or whatever component of the labels I put. Anyways, going in depth, there's nothing there. So that's called just very rough way of explaining emptiness of the self. Then on the basis of that recognition, realization of the emptiness of the self, then divine pride of the Idan deities, for example, the five dakinis, for example, or the Prajna Paramita. So without that recognition of emptiness, it's become a fantasy, child play. This is a very important part of it. That's why emphasis of recognition of emptiness in the context of sutra is very important. It's same thing. Emptiness is emptiness. Same sutra path and tantra path, all the same. But then in terms of tantra, on the top of that the emptiness, we counteract this ordinary perception. That is the enemy in the tantra. You can say sutra enemy is this self-existing self in terms of self. And the sutra is this based on this emptiness, self-existence is the enemy in tantra, is a way of perceiving who think we are. Is that clear a little bit? So that's why it's so important through the sutra. We cannot skip. It's impossible to come to this genuine divine pride or come to this shift or transformation of the perception of who think you are. It's possible if not based on that emptiness of the self. All those things, investigation we do in actually Mahamudra journey. That's why we need to go together. Mahamudra journey and the tantric, you can say tantra. Mahamudra, in this case, tantric Mahamudra, but I'm talking about the path of liberation, direct path of liberation, Mahamudra, or those of you who might practice in Dzogchen, maybe. Then Tantra, this I'm talking about Idan practice. Anyway, that's the generation stage, very rough way. So the generation stage is called yoga of pretense. But the pretense not based on this crazy idea of wishful thinking. Pretending based on the understanding of these two special kind of emptiness I was talking about, emptiness of the self and the emptiness of the phenomena, you can say. Emptiness of the self, based on that, divine pride or the sacred dignity is emerged, actually manifest. Then based on the emptiness of anything other than the self, which is a phenomena, dakunan, pure vision, pure perception, everything. This is the beauty of Tantra actually. We don't need to change the object. We just need to unveil this perception of ordinary way of thinking, this bottle. So this is the ordinary perception, everything, computer, painting, sky, you, appearances we call. But that is based on the labels and perceptions. In order to remove that, we need to based on this emptiness, realization of emptiness of the phenomena, along with this strong counteracting this ordinary perception, which is viewing, for example, three transformation. Is look at all the phenomena, external world as the mandala of Idan deities. And whatever you hear is the mantra of Idan deities. So that at the time of a death, all these appearance, fearful appearance coming, right? Or fear of death as a human being, we were wired in the body. It fear was coming back. But then during the practice, we can work with that. We have a choice. We can control, we can have a choice. Then we can get used to it. And the cho practice is one way to do that. We die, in a sense, we practicing dying and dissolution stage and so forth. Then offering, especially in the case of Cho, emphasis of offering, emphasis of letting go of this grasping. So because body is the object that we most attach to, at the time of death, we have to let go, right? We have to surrender. So we're learning surrendering as well.